Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Moss, and in this video, I want to talk about the current state of the job market in tech and provide my thoughts on why it's so hard to get a tech role right now. Whether it's an SRE or DevOps role like what I'm in, or it's a developer role, it's been very difficult to get a job right now. Now, one thing that I've heard and read people claim about the tech industry is that it's getting or has been oversaturated with candidates and new graduates. And the justification for oversaturation is the idea that over the last few years, tech jobs have been kind of advertised as this really ideal job where it's a desk job, you're making a ton of money. It's been advertised as kind of like that six-figure salary job. It's like right off the bat, you hear of so many fresh graduates making over six figures in technical roles. And so people believe that because of all of this great PR that tech is getting, specifically like development roles have been getting, that there's been this influx of students going into computer science and studying computer science, and then they're going out into the professional world and just kind of completely oversaturating the market and thereby driving down demand for developers and also driving down the salaries of developers. And I really believe that that's just not the case. I think that if you look at the job growth in tech has continued to expand. It's not shrank except within the last like 2 years. Over 2022 and 2023, you've seen a reduction in jobs posted and filled in the tech industry. And that was really brought on by this massive boom in jobs in like late 2020 and through 2021. So there was kind of like overhiring happening in 2021. And now that's kind of come back down and starting to stabilize. But there's a few reasons why I think oversaturation in the tech market is almost not possible. And the first reason is that tech is technical. It has a high barrier to entry. If you've studied computer science in your bachelor's degree, or you currently work in the field, you know that it's not something that you can just learn overnight. You have to study a broad variety of topics to become fluent in any kind of like technical role like a software developer or DevOps and SRE roles. And I know that sounds kind of obvious that tech is very technical, but it is a barrier for a lot of people. And if you look at the numbers of how many graduates there are per degree type, like, health professions and business degrees and stuff like that, the number of computer science degrees is fairly small. Not a lot of people graduate in those technical degrees. The other reason that I think that oversaturation is not possible is that the tech industry is very fluid and it changes too rapidly for there to be time for the market to be oversaturated. And just to give you an example, look at what AI has done in 2023 after ChatGPT was released. Suddenly you're seeing a really high demand for people with artificial intelligence expertise in the tech field. And if you turn back the clock a little bit further, what was the demand, the high demand before that? Well, it was in blockchain technology when cryptocurrencies were, going to the moon in 2020 and 2021. And even before that, crypto was picking up quite a bit of speed. There was a lot of companies that were going public and a lot of companies in the blockchain space. And there was a lot of demand for blockchain engineers and developers that specialize in that area. And go back even further before blockchain and cryptocurrencies took off and were gaining speed. What was the high demand in tech roles before that? Well, it was machine learning and data science. You saw a lot of those roles open up somewhere between 2016 to 2018 range. I saw that was kind of like trending quite a bit, and those roles haven't really gone away either. I think that those roles just kind of appeared out of nowhere, and they're here to stay. They're not going anywhere. And I believe that there always have been and always will be those kinds of opportunities as tech evolves. There's always going to be those kinds of opportunities that you can kind of specialize in and create a niche in that there's not going to be a lot of competition in that space. And yes, those niches like crypto and machine learning, they have an even higher barrier to entry, right? So you have to work harder to become a specialist in one of those. But you're setting yourself up for getting a job if you specialize in one of those particular subtopics within the tech field. Now you might be thinking, well, Moss, there's crypto and there's machine learning and AI now, but I'm entry level. I just graduated from school, and there's basically no entry level jobs right now, and it's really difficult to get a job. And I totally agree with you that it's very difficult. Entry level positions are a smaller percentage of the overall available jobs in tech right now. But I think that a lot of new grads and entry level folks mistakenly think that when they're entering the job market that they're competing with experienced people that have like 5 to 10 years of experience. They're competing with senior engineers that already have had, 5 years of React experience or 5 years of AWS experience. You're not competing with them, and you shouldn't try to be competing with those types of candidates in like senior level positions. Those senior engineers are not trying to apply to the same jobs that you're applying to. They're trying to grow in their career as well, and they're applying to the next step. Maybe it's another senior position, or a staff level position, or a management position. Those are the jobs that they're going to be applying for and competing in that space. And there are entry level positions out there, even if there are a smaller percentage of entry level positions versus experience positions that are available. And I can tell you that there's going to continue being entry-level positions open. And the reason for that is that it doesn't make financial sense for a company to assign junior level or entry-level work to one of their senior engineers that should be working on shipping complex features, okay? No company is going to make the decision to assign junior level work to one of their senior engineers. It's a waste of money. And that's from the company's perspective. Imagine the perspective of the senior engineer who's getting assigned junior level work. If you're an ambitious senior engineer, you don't want to work on junior level tasks. You want to work on complex problem solving. So you're not going to keep senior talent around at your company if you're consistently assigning them junior level work. Those senior engineers will leave the company for another company that will give them senior level work. So it does make financial sense for a company to hire entry-level junior engineers that can perform, non-complex tasks that the senior engineer wouldn't want to touch with a 6-foot pole. Now, the other thing that I would suggest that you do if you're a fresh graduate and you're looking for entry-level roles in tech is not to, apply to the developer roles, but don't keep applying to developer roles if you're not even getting interviews. You want to expand your scope of search if you're not getting interviews in strictly developer roles, even if they're like entry-level junior developer roles. And I think that this is something that's overlooked by a lot of fresh graduates. They graduate and they're like, okay, I'm ready for my developer role. And yeah, there's not a lot of entry-level positions out there for developers. So you're competing with, the top of their class for those entry-level positions. So if you can't get one of those positions, what do? Well, you expand your scope and look for other peripheral roles in tech. And what I mean by that is look at some roles like test automation engineer. You are very likely to get a test automation engineering job as a fresh graduate because they're in high demand and the work isn't very complex. What you're doing is you're just creating automation scripts that automatically run tests for some development team's test suite and running that in like a CI pipeline. It's very likely that you could get hired on as a test automation engineer. And when you get hired into one of those peripheral roles, it makes it very easy to move into an actual developer role because you have industry experience now and you're exposed to all of the tools and the technologies that the development team is using, and you're making a better case for yourself when you're going again and applying for a developer role. So I'm using test automation engineer as an example because it's a role that I'm familiar with, but also in larger companies, you'll often see that the testing activities are split into separate teams. So you could also look at test engineers that are creating like high-level system-level testing for a development team's particular technology stack. So those are other peripheral roles that you could look for. And data analyst is another one that comes to mind. But these are roles that are peripheral to the actual developer role, that maybe that's what your goal is and that's what you want to work in. But they allow you to get your foot in the door, they get you a job, and they give you a path forward into the developer role. So that's why I believe there's not an oversaturation in tech. There are chances of you getting a job. It's that you can't have your scope too narrow when you're looking for a job. You shouldn't be applying to only the big tech companies like Google and Netflix and Amazon. You should be expanding your scope, your job search, to include very small local companies that you can apply to, and also expanding your search outside of just developer roles. You should be looking at these kind of satellite roles that surround the software development lifecycle and give you that opportunity to eventually move into a developer role. Even at smaller companies, I've seen over the last couple of years that small companies are being in primary roles like developer roles and SRE roles. They are following the same methods and intensity and difficulty of interviewing that large companies like Netflix and Google have been doing in their interviews for years. And so it's much harder to get into these primary roles like developer roles when even the small companies are interviewing at the same level that those big companies are interviewing at. And so again, this is just to emphasize that, you should be looking at these satellite roles, because those are going to be opportunities where not everybody's competing in the role for that role. And you might not be tested as hard in the interviews for roles like that. Now, this is more of a motivational message, but I think it's important to keep trying and not give up on getting into a developer role. It is a process. It's not something that happens overnight, and it's not something that is guaranteed immediately after you graduate from school. But people give up sooner than you realize, and you think that you have all of this competition. But in reality, if you just don't give up, you're ahead of a large percentage of the population that basically just already gave up, and they're not even trying anymore. Getting into tech requires quite a bit of time, and a lot of people just don't have the patience to stay in the race. I believe that pretty much anyone is capable of getting into tech, but not many people are willing to put in the work and the time to get into one of these roles. I can't emphasize how important it is to just continue trying, whether it's getting your job or getting a better paying job, or moving up in your career, getting a promotion. That's so important to just continue to try and also continue to learn. As you go through interview processes, make sure that you take away lessons learned after the interview. What could I have done better? How can I improve in the next interview? And doing that, eventually you'll hit this moment, this breakthrough, and it will pay off. In life, to be successful, you don't always have to be the strongest or the smartest or the fastest. Sometimes you just have to not give up. And I think everyone has the capability to not give up. In the tech industry, you'll hear people say fail fast and often. And I think this is especially true in the job search, is that when you're applying to jobs, you should be applying to as many companies as you can and not filtering, jobs very much. If you're struggling to get interviews and struggling to get a job, you shouldn't be filtering jobs. You should be sending out your application to as many job postings as you can. And the more rejections that you receive, whether it's automated rejection emails where it says like, thank you for your interest, or it's, after actually interviewing, you get an email from the recruiter that says, hey, we found it, we're going with another candidate. The more that you do that, and the more rejections that you hear, the more numb you will feel towards the sting of rejection. And not only that, the more often that you interview, you won't even notice it, but you'll start to become more and more confident in interviews. You may not notice it, but the interviewer will. As you're going through this process, Don't blame yourself and don't be hard on yourself if you're not getting interviews, if you're not getting job offers. The market is difficult. It is difficult for entry level, and it's also difficult for experienced tech workers as well. There's nothing to be ashamed of if you failed while trying. That's pretty much all I have for this video. I hope it gave you an additional perspective that you can ponder while you're continuing your search. If you're an entry level, if you're a fresh graduate looking for an entry level job, or if you're an experienced job seeker in tech. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please leave them below in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider throwing a like on it and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.